All right, people, going live on the website this week, we are back in everyone's favorite northwestern New Mexico county, Cibola County, with this spacious 10.7 acre forested corner lot, close to power, close to underground telecom, close to the national forest, and far from people. This one's priced at $25,000 with, like all of our properties, a very affordable owner financing option we will discuss in mere moments. For now, however, let's go to the map. So, our subject property is located about 2.5 hours west of Albuquerque and sits just south of Rama. For those of you unfamiliar with Rama, it is a charming but very small town which boasts little more than a grocery store, gas station, post office, a school, and not a lot else. Fortunately, guys, our property sits roughly equidistant from both Gallup and Grants, two much larger mid-sized towns which, if you elect to purchase and develop today's property, you will likely rely on for groceries and supplies. Grants has a Walmart and a Tractor Supply store. Gallup has a Walmart and a Home Depot. And the two of them together share any number of fast food restaurants, hospitals, pharmacies, casinos, banks, churches, schools, so on and the like. And of course, you can learn more about what's available where by going to the Towns and Attractions section of our listing page and reading up on what we have listed there, as well as reviewing our photo gallery. So when we go back to the map here, you will see, as noted, that the subject property sits just south of Rama, more specifically in an unincorporated part of the county known as Candy Kitchen, and more specifically still, it sits just north of Candy Kitchen Road, aka Indian Service Road 120, and, to be even more specific one last time, the Eden Subdivision, or roughly this area you see here. And of course, guys, if we turn off Candy Kitchen Road and into the subdivision, we will first be greeted by community mailboxes, followed by a northbound drive along 5 Gate Road. 5 Gate is what we'll call the major arterial, using that term generously, that cuts through this region, and as we can see from the photos, it is both well maintained and boasts residential power lines as well as underground utilities. Whatever the case, guys, you drive about 1.3 miles north on 5 Gate, at which point you come to Easy Living Road. Now, should be noted, guys, that the residential power lines as well as the underground utility boxes end at this intersection, so they stop just short of the land or about a quarter mile shy over here. Either way, you bang a sharp right on Easy Living, drive that last little distance along a road that looks like this, and finally you will arrive at this, the 10.7 acre subject property. So, as we can see from the photos, this is a largely flat piece of land with plenty of open space on which to park, camp, and perhaps eventually build. The property has a good amount of vegetation, which is putting it lightly, for it includes juniper, ponderosa pine, and, as our photographer joked, enough young pine to open a Christmas tree farm. In addition, the property features an ever so slight rise in elevation of about 20 feet as we come to some rock outcroppings on the eastern boundary of the land. This appears to give you a slightly elevated view of the surrounding community, though realistically speaking, nothing too expansive. Now, it should also be noted that there's a little bit of fencing along the southwestern boundary of the property. The part of the fencing that is still standing looks like this, so we'll say it's seen better days. That said, it does seem to work as some kind of border between the subject property and the neighbor. And to be clear, guys, when I say the neighbor, I mean the developed home site on the neighboring 10 acres, which looks like this. So while they are the closest thing, they're not terribly close, if that makes sense. Now, a couple things to know. So as far as neighbors go, this is what some of the developed home sites look like out here. So all of them have power, and if you study the photos carefully, you can also see underground utility boxes. As noted earlier, those stop about a quarter mile short of the property, though I will point out that, number one, power lines seem to start and stop throughout this region, meaning they cover select roads, every other roads. There is no logic or pattern to it that I have ever observed, meaning they don't lead to one area, then stop, and everything after that is off-grid. Point being, it may not be terribly expensive to get them extended out to the subject property. There may already be plans to do that, or other landowners requesting it. Of course, if you would like to learn more about the cost and logistics of doing such a thing, you can reach out to the Continental Divide Electric Co-op, which is the utility company that services this region, and their contact info can, as always, guys, be found on our listing page under the property details section and the tab marked Access and Utilities. Next, let's talk about zoning. So, as we have covered in countless videos, Cibola County has no county-wide zoning, and defers instead to towns and municipalities to make up and enforce their own rules. The region this property is located in is unincorporated Cibola County, which means that even that small amount of regulation does not apply here. Now, regular viewers of this channel are, of course, well versed in the esoterica of candy kitchen subdivisions, but for the new people, goes like this. All of the carved up residential land you see circled here was created by the same developer. That is to say that the same person who owned all this land chopped it all up into like-type residential lots, bladed and named the roads, and outfitted certain areas with utilities. And instead of doing what most developers do, which is say, create one subdivision with whatever, 2,000 individual parcels, instead they created, I don't even know, 20 subdivisions, each with 100 parcels. We'll pretend that's the math, but you get the point. Whatever the case, if you look at the legal descriptions of land out here, you will find subdivisions such as Pitchford, such as Easy Living, such as Homestead. There's one called Jubilee Trails. There's one called Baker's Glen, another called Great White Father, God's Acre, Hastings, and probably about a dozen others I'm forgetting all throughout this region, including Eden. Point being, it's an unusual way to do it. It is made further unusual, if that's a thing, by the fact that the covenants and restrictions read almost exactly the same for all of the subdivisions. Now, none of them have an HOA, none of them collect annual dues, and none of them are terribly restrictive. Site-built, mobile, modular homes, all acceptable, and there are no restrictions on minimum square footage. Now, this is a copy of the plat map that was on file with the county. See how this looks like something that was recovered from an Aztec burial site? Right. Well, the CCRs looked worse. This is at least legible. You can still at least look at this and discern detail. Point being, if you go to the property details section of the listing page, you can read the covenants that are on file for the neighboring Hastings subdivision, which are exactly the same as the covenants for the Eden subdivision, except you will be able to read them, unlike the CCR doc we got back for Eden. Whatever the case, the few things that are written in this one-page document include a lot of what we like to refer to as reasonable good neighbor restrictions, such as guidelines for disposing of waste and prohibitions on excess noise. Finally, guys, before we wrap up here, do want to point out a couple things on Google Maps. So first off, if we look at the map, you will see a small pond or some kind of body of water just down the street from the subject property. Google Maps, however, guys, is trying to trick you. Don't fall for it. This body of water does not exist in real life. If you switch to satellite view, you can see it disappear. Next, if we pull back on the map, you will see that situated just east of the Candy Kitchen region is Navajo tribal land. And because we occasionally get calls and questions about this from time to time, I want to take a moment to address this here. The subject property is not part of tribal land. It has a tax account number with Cibola County. It is owned by our company, which bought it from a private individual who himself bought it from the original developer who himself owned all this land, subdivided, and sold it off to other private individuals. All of these things would not be true if it were tribal land. The process of buying land from a tribe involves the tribe voting on it and then petitioning the Interior Department through the Bureau of Indian Affairs, a process which, as you can all imagine, would never occur quickly. The point is that if you're looking at this rather broad checkerboard pattern Google Maps has outlined as Navajo Nation tribal land, just know that number one, it does not overlap with the subject property or the subdivision the subject property is in, and number two, despite being owned by the local tribe, this area does not appear to be developed. Alright, so this is normally the part of the video where I discuss the purchasing process for the property, and of course, as with all of our listings, we have the purchase for cash, pay all at once option here, and the owner financing down payment plus affordable monthly payment option here. As with everything else with this property, however, it is unique and requires a little additional explanation and disclosure. So, goes like this. This property was purchased from someone who purchased it at a tax auction. That tax auction occurred in the last 5 years. In the state of New Mexico, title companies will not insure any property purchased at a tax auction until 7 years have passed. And that means not only that we were not able to purchase title insurance on the land, but it also means you will not be able to either until May 2027. Now, if you are a cash buyer, someone who wants to purchase this property and pay for it right now in full, what that means is that a title company will not be involved and you will have to pay our company directly via credit card, cashier's check, or wire transfer. It also means that we are, at this time, only willing to provide you with a special warranty deed. Now, If you buy the property and May 2027 rolls around and you decide you want to purchase title insurance, Hemingway Land will gladly cooperate with you when that time comes. We'll coordinate with the title company, we'll provide whatever documentation they need from us, and we will sign a new warranty deed. Regrettably, however, none of that can occur until then. You can buy it now, but you can't insure it until then. And if you have reservations about paying $25,000 directly to someone on the internet, I completely understand. I don't like to buy properties in this price range without having first acquired title insurance, and I don't like to sell them without that being a viable option for the buyer. That said, for reasons I hope are obvious, I made an exception when it came to this property. I investigated the title history, I was comfortable with it, and I made this exception. And if you do want to purchase this property, it'll work the same way as it does with all of our smaller dollar properties. We will write the deed, you approve it, we sign and notarize it, mail it off to the county, they record it, and congratulations, you are the new owner. And yes, it's really that easy. Now, if you are a terms buyer, someone who wants to place a down payment and make affordable monthly payments as time goes on, not much will change for you. We're asking for $5,000 down, $450 a month for 66 months, and we are offering 12 months same as cash. And if that sounds like something you can afford, simply click the Buy Now button, initiate the transaction with the $500 down, and set up the recurring monthly $450 payment. We'll get you documentation within 24 hours, and then you can pay the remaining $4,500 balance, which we ask for within roughly 96 hours. And between now and the time that you pay the property off, you'll have a land contract. And as always, guys, our land contracts contain only prepayment incentives, no prepayment penalties. And if you click this link right here, you can review everything you'll be asked to sign before placing even $1. Now, it should be noted, when we get into this price range, I prefer to run a deal like this through a title company and let a loan servicing company collect the monthly payments. I prefer the buyer have a mortgage and not merely a land contract. That said, again, because of the circumstances surrounding the chain of title on the property and how New Mexico title companies like to work, that cannot be an option until May 2027. When that time comes, we as seller and you as buyer can have a conversation about modifying, we'll say the substance, not the terms, but the substance of the agreement, so you can acquire title insurance and have a formal mortgage on the property. But that's a jump off that bridge when we come to a sort of conversation to have for another day, and at that point, it would be entirely up to you. And by the way, guys, everything I just discussed here can be found down here under the property details section of the listing page under the title info tab. So if it went too fast, any part here in the explanation, feel free to just read over this section here.